One other thing that you should understand if you understood what happened here is that when we assigned this array named children to our constructor, even that was a problem. This has nothing to do with getters and setters. Here, we're directly accessing the constructor. And in the constructor, we have this.children equals children. So what's happening here? And we've already seen this, right? So let me change the diagram to show what's happening here. So at first, a children array is getting created, and that's the array that got created. That's the object. This is the address. And the children variable has the address stored in it, and it's pointing to this object. Great. So when we assign this to our constructor, what happens is that this comes here, and we've already seen this in the previous video, and then this comes here. So the value of this children is this address, and this is exactly what comes here, and then this gets passed to this variable here, and then this variable's value gets passed to this dot children, which is this. So ultimately this becomes, right? So what is our children variable in memory? In the diagram, it is this, right? So here, this address would now be stored. And so this basically points to this object. So now you see, if we change children from the main method, we're changing this object. And so in that way, our children from the person class also will change. It's the same problem that we were having with the setter method as well. And we'll have the same solution for this problem as well. What we can do is when this part comes here, we can take it, but we do not assign it directly to our children variable. What we do instead of this is that we use our setter method. We can just say set children, and exactly how we used it here, we passed new array, right? Instead of new array, we'll pass children. So ultimately what would happen is that this has this address here, which is again, and this address gets passed here. This address comes to this variable here, and this ultimately comes here. So that means that we are now going into the setChildren method. So then from here, the setChildren method is called, and this value gets passed to inputChildren. So now inputChildren has the value equal to this address, which is the same as this address. And so what now happens is that a new array is created. So this connection will not exist because we are not doing this anymore, right? So now a new array would be created because we are creating a new array here, right? And this would ultimately be the same as this one, because this then gets assigned as an empty array, because we did not come to this right now, right? We are still here. So these things still didn't happen. That means these are empty, basically. We're starting from the beginning of the program, right? At first, we define children as an array. This has this address. This children then get passed here. It has this address. This comes here, the same address. This comes here. This is what we wrote instead of this statement. Now we have this statement. And then, so this value then comes here, and then this value then gets passed here. And then a new array is created, which is, let's say, this array, right? With the new address. And then now we copy everything from this address, which is this object, to our children array, which is this variable. So now everything from here gets copied. And so now this array has Mary, David, and Eric in it. And then our children array points to that. So now if you change children array outside of this class in the main class, this would change, but this will still remain the same. In this way also, we are protecting our variables inside the class. We're making sure that they're well encapsulated. So in the previous video, you saw how this problem can exist with the setter method, but now you also know that this problem can exist with the constructor as well if you pass the reference directly to the constructor. And how do we solve that problem? We use the setter method directly here instead of assigning this reference directly to our children variable. You can probably do the same for name, gender, and age. Up to you. And I think you should, right? This dot age should not be age. Remember in one of the previous videos, we actually created a setter method for age. So we should actually, instead of doing this here, we should actually do set age, age. So now, even in this case, if someone inputs, let's say 500 here, then our age, if we're using this, will become 500, because this will directly be able to access this part and keep it as a 500 value. But we don't want that. People's age cannot be 500, right? We want it to be within the range 1 to 110, let's say, right? And that's exactly what we did in the set age method. So instead of directly saying that our age variable becomes whatever you've input here, because this is coming here, right? So instead of putting everything that people put in the constructor from the outside, instead of directly assigning it to our variables here, which we were doing before, instead of doing that, we can just use our setter methods and create logic in our setter methods that protect us from these kind of unwanted values. So in the previous video, you saw how the problem exists with setter methods, but now you know how to use the setter methods to solve the problems that exist with constructors as well, from an encapsulation perspective.